My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I want to start a series of videos that I'm going to call the Texas Child Support Hustle. The Texas Child Support Hustle. And the reason I'm calling them that is because in the state of Texas, we have bragged over the last 11 years of how good we are at collecting child support. We lead the nation in collecting child support. Attorney General Ken Paxton will tell you, as did his predecessor, currently Governor Abbott, but formerly Attorney General Abbott, that Texas is really, really good at collecting child support. What they don't tell you, however, is the human side of what they do. So I've got a letter here that I received from a friend of mine, Gretchen. I'm calling her Gretchen, and her husband Kyle. They also have a daughter that I'm going to be calling Madison. All of these names have been changed to protect them so that the Attorney General does not go after them. But last year we had a meeting with the Attorney General, and Gretchen, the wife and the mother, came down to the meeting, and she wanted to talk with the Attorney General. I don't think she got to, but she sent me this letter, and she just recently sent me a follow-up, so I thought I would go ahead and read it to talk about the human side of what happens with the child support hustle in Texas. Gretchen says, I am not motivated by money. It does not matter to me if I have a few extra $1,000 in my pocket or even a few extra $100. What matters to me is this, is that I have a 2-year-old cotton-top daughter whose daddy might be taken away because he can no longer afford to be taken advantage of. Gretchen continues, I have gone months at a time without a cell phone, internet, a running vehicle. We've had a broken water heater, and I've even washed clothes by hand on a few occasions. It does not bother me to go without, but what does bother me is when you take away my little daughter's daddy. This is a crucial time in her development, and she needs to see her father consistently. We all have seen kids without a male role model in their lives, and it's typically not pretty. My husband and his first wife were together for 13 years. They were high school sweethearts. At the time of their divorce, that was nearly half of his life. His divorce was unexpected. That might sound weird, but I myself got an unexpected text message about 6 years ago that said it's over after 8 years of marriage. Only Kyle, my husband, had a lot more to lose than I did. He and his ex-wife had a company and children. He showed up one day for work, and the sheriff handed him divorce papers. The safety deposit box with $25,000 in it had already been emptied. My husband Kyle left for the weekend, and when he returned to the house also was completely emptied. Even the little hooks to hold coffee mugs were all taken. It was all gone. The company that he and his wife owned was in her name for tax purposes, so she got to keep the company. But she promised him this is just a temporary thing. In other words, this was not going to be a permanent divorce. It was going to be a temporary sort of thing, and we'll work it out. I just need some time on my own. My husband even agreed to sign a non-compete so that he could not start a new business in surrounding counties, and he could not even work for another company in that area. He couldn't even do service for his grandmother without his ex-wife suing him. Yet he is supposed to make child support payments of somewhere between $1,500 and $2,800 a month. She continues, a divorce is completely devastating to people. I've heard it's the hardest thing one may have to go through, even worse than the death of a spouse. People are emotional during a divorce and often make irrational decisions. My husband lost his company, his means of living, his children, his wife, and his nest egg, everything in one day. And by the way, I hear stories like this all the time in the state of Texas, all the time. While the divorce was being finalized, she was having dinner with him, and he was staying the night with her. And so she was making him believe that, everything really is temporary. We're going to get back together. It's just a temporary thing that's going on. My husband agreed to pay half of every receipt that she spent on the kids. One time we got a receipt for a pencil bag that cost $60 because it was monogrammed and shipped overnight. So he had to pay half of that. She tried to sue us for $10,000 of school supplies for 2 kids in 1 year of public school. The children played sports, and we got receipts for a new sports bag, for socks. Everything was brand new, and everything was brand name, of course. It wasn't until about a year and a half afterwards that it came into our minds, maybe she's buying all of this stuff and returning it and then just sending us the receipt. It is very interesting how they no longer play sports now that we don't pay for half of everything. Like I said, we were getting statements from her saying that we owed between $1,500 and $2,800 a month. My husband was trying to start his own company away from hers, earning less than minimum wage and working crazy hours. He was borrowing from everyone he could, trying to make ends meet. All his friends and family lived in the counties that he was not allowed to work in. She would sue him every year for something. Finally, he just sold his company, and the people who purchased the company are behind on paying us for the company. It is like we can't win for losing. We were finally able to get out of having to pay half of everything. We were finally able to get out of having to pay every receipt during mediation, but my husband offered to pay more than required off of his base income in the hope that he could see his children a couple of more hours each week. $700 in child support, $250 in medical insurance, and in addition, somehow ADD medication still costs us another $250 a month. My husband has ADD and ADHD, so he knows what the side effects of those drugs are, yet he has no say in whether the children will take them or not. The children are being used as pawns. 3 months into our marriage, she promised him that he could have his kids and they would get back together if only he would divorce me. So now Gretchen and Kyle are married, and evidently, I'm not sure whether Kyle's ex-wife is jealous or what, but she makes a proposal: if you divorce Gretchen, we'll get back together and everything will be fine. My husband went to see his lawyer, who refused to write up the papers, but he said, tell her that you did write up the papers. Her response to him was, you fool, I can get you for everything. This is unbelievable. It sounds like a Lifetime movie script, but it is my life. Why isn't there any protection for an emotionally wrecked father to keep them from signing their lives away? At the moment, it's hard to see, but life goes on, and the new family and the new children suffer for it. I would love to have more children, or even adopt, but we cannot afford it. And now with jail time on my husband's record, because the Attorney General of the state of Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton, threw him into jail for 10 days, who would let us? Why does my family have to go without while they live in luxury? When we can't afford the lavish lifestyle, my daughter loses her father, who gets thrown into jail, and she no longer gets to see her half-brothers. Why do my stepchildren have to move from boyfriend's house to boyfriend's house when we've paid enough to cover rent or even a mortgage in the past? Why does she get to send them to the grandparents when she goes on vacation? Why can't the children stay with their father? I could go on and on for days with all of the things that make one shake their heads, but all I really want is a normal life for my daughter. A daddy who does not have to work ridiculous hours to make a payment that is more than my single mother friends make in a month. Or a daddy who does not have the stress and anxiety hanging over him of possibly going to jail yet again. Who knows how to handle their first divorce? We don't have classes about this in school. No one going into marriage plans on it happening. We don't know what our rights are in a divorce, and some of us have never dealt with the law or lawyers. My husband couldn't even afford a lawyer. He had a criminal lawyer whom he promised to do yard work for in lieu of payment, and that lawyer sent in a colleague at the last minute because the lawyer could not make it. My husband finally got a really good job with benefits after selling his company and losing his last job because he got locked up by the Attorney General, thrown into jail by Attorney General Ken Paxton for being behind on child support payments. There is nothing else I can say, but please do not let this happen to another family. And please let my daughter keep her father. So I actually went out to visit Gretchen and Kyle, and I can confirm everything that they said. I was at their place. My heart went out to them. Their daughter was beautiful, lovely, sweetest thing, sweetest little girl I've seen. But to continue on, Gretchen wrote to me recently and said this. After Kyle went to jail for 10 days last year, we both got the flu. After the flu, Kyle started having seizures at night. We are still trying to figure out why he started to have these seizures, but the neurologist said it was probably because of the stress and the trauma in his life. A few months ago, he started to have seizures during the day. He totaled our truck one day from one of his seizures, and the next day at work, he passed out and ran a tractor into the trees and cracked the windshield. He got fired a week later. Stress and trauma related. He cannot drive for 6 months, but he is required to pay child support. Or, once again, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, will throw him into prison because he is behind on his child support payments. I have to pay my stepson's insurance through my work now. So Gretchen is now paying the insurance for her stepson that she and Kyle rarely get to see. We are thankful that Kyle's best friend is helping him with his new business, and he can drive Kyle and our little daughter, Madison, around. By the way, we had to take Madison out of the little Christian preschool she was in because Kyle can't drive. It will all work out, and God is providing for us, but not everyone has other people they can count on or the ability to work for themselves. These laws in Texas, the abusive practices of the Child Enforcement Department, which is headed up by Attorney General Ken Paxton, have horrible repercussions that the rest of society does not see unless they are experiencing it for themselves. Once again, our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, like his predecessor, Governor Abbott, brag about how good Texas is about collecting child support. But there is another side that people rarely see. How it devastates people. How it tears families apart. How little girls cannot be with their daddy because the Attorney General is going to throw somebody into jail because he can't pay his child support or her child support. It happens to both genders. Something is wrong in the state of Texas when we have debtors' prisons for people who can't pay child support. Debtor prisons actually were outlawed years ago, but in Texas, debtor prisons are alive and well. I hope that this upcoming session, our legislature will have an appetite to change some of these things, and I would hope that we would quit bragging about these abuses that take place to men and women, fathers and mothers, and children in our society. Thank you.